Got it.
Hello and welcome to the NZ Ahead podcast. I'm Liz.
And I'm Brian.
And today we have got a brilliant show for you because we're going to be talking about one of my favourite subjects of all time. What is it, Brian?
Snow skiing.
We're talking about, no, we're not. We're talking about money, about how to save money, how to make money when you come over to New Zealand, and about transferring your money over to this country so that when you get here, you have got a big lump sum of what you've worked hard for.
Yeah, it's even from $200 to $1,000 to the whole sale of your house or whatever it is you're bringing over. Two ways to do things. You can bring it over via your bank or you can use a Forex company, foreign exchange company. And that's what we're talking about today.
Yeah, we're going to be talking to Ashlee and Stu from the foreign exchange company called TorFX. These guys are based in Australia, so it was brilliant for us because we're almost on the same time zone, so we could have a really great chat. And they are just the most wonderful, warm, brilliant people to talk to about moving your money over because let's face it, it's one of those topics that when you start talking about, you start to get a bit nervous, don't you, Brian?
Well, you do, because you worked hard for this money, to save this money, to make money on your sale of your house, or even if it's just your car, or just the savings you've got to come and start a new life somewhere else. And the last thing you want is to put it into the hands of someone that doesn't talk to you, or it just goes into the ether and hopefully arrives in New Zealand, where if you're using this company, you're going to get to speak to real people.
And the reason you're going to love this show is because we get to share a little story, actually. I think our regular listeners will know this story very well of how me and Brian, well, it wasn't Brian, it was me really, gambled. I didn't take Brian's advice and we decided to gamble and play the markets a little bit and try and make some money with our money that we had in the UK. And we ended up losing a large sum of money because we didn't use guys like this that we're introducing you to. So we feel very passionately about it because once we did know about how to use a Forex company, we were able to just make far more money than we were able to make with a bank.
Yes, it's not about making money, it's what you'll save. That's the thing. So your money, you're not going to make money from it, but you're going to save so much money. Hey, Liz, and that's what it's, how much did we lose?
They've got to listen. They're going to listen to the whole interview and then they'll find out. I'm not bitter.
Yeah,
I'm not still talking about it 14 years later, Brian.
No, I am.
So just sit back and you will realise when these guys start talking why we love them so much. It's Ashlee
and Stu
from TorFX in Australia. So sit back and let them tell you how to deal with your money when you move to New Zealand.
Got it.
Welcome to the NZ Ahead podcast. Everything you need to know about moving to and living in New Zealand.
There's a whole world here.
So nice to be with you again.
We call it Aotearoa around here, bro.
You'll be right.
We are your hosts, Liz and Brian.
Amazing New Zealand in the southern seas.
See, that's where I belong. That's home.
Ashlee and Stu, welcome to the podcast. So excited to have you here with us from Australia. Can't believe
Over
it.
the ditch.
Yeah, from Australia. Would you like to just jump on in and introduce yourselves and let us know who you are and why you're sitting opposite us, what your company is?
Yeah, sure. Look, we really appreciate the opportunity to sit down with you both and have this chat. We're both with TorFX. We're a foreign exchange group and we essentially work with clients all around the world, just helping them move money cross borders or internationally. So whether they're sending or receiving money, we help them. My role in the business here is I head up the business development and strategic partnerships team, and Ash is part of the team. And I'll let Ash introduce herself, but she's very much client facing in her role.
Hi guys, I'm Ashlee. I work really closely with Stu here at TorFX, and I work alongside our affiliate partners and the clients that they send through to us.
Thank you. So just a little backstory. As some people might know who follow this channel, we help and support people who are moving to New Zealand. That's what our channel is based around, NZ Ahead. And we are always looking for companies that can help people who are moving to New Zealand. And one of the massive questions that we always get is, what do I do with my money? Because it's like they sell their house in the UK or the US or wherever they're coming from and they're bringing it over. And it's just, it's a big stress, just to think about bringing all that money over. And then within our group, we started seeing your name popping up every now and again. And it was like, when you just notice this name keeps coming up. So we reached out to you a couple of weeks ago and we had a chat with you, and it kind of sealed the deal, because the thing with you guys that we took out from that meeting was just you're easy to talk to. You've got a brilliant reputation. You're real. you're just down to earth. And that's the kind of company that we want to put our trust in, just we want to promote. So that is why you're here from our side, because we've heard lots of great things about you. And we just love that you're just so easy to talk to. And that's why we wanted you to come on the podcast today.
And you're from Australia as well.
Of course.
Which
yes.
is not far away, which is fantastic.
It gives us big cred.
Yeah.
Oh, look, that's the best thing about Australia and New Zealand. I think we punch well above our weight on the international stage. So we're both islands sitting out in the middle of nowhere, but what we deliver, I think, is really formidable. And I think, look, in terms of our group, generally, and getting our name out there, we fly under the radar a fair bit. A lot of people don't realise but TorFX is part of a much wider group or a larger group globally, and that's the Currencies Direct Group. And the Currencies Direct Group is one of the largest privately held foreign exchange groups in the world. And currently we've got just over 25 offices across 5 continents. We're coming close to 700 employees globally, and our group services in excess of 425,000 clients around the world, and that's both private and corporate client. And I suppose on a volume basis, we're transacting, or for FY22, we moved about just in excess of 18.5 billion in funds globally. So what we do is foreign exchange. That's all we do, and we do it really, really well.
Stu, can I just say, when you said, oh yeah, we move money with corporate and private. So here's the thing, and this is going to sound really daft, so excuse me for saying this, but before we moved to New Zealand and we knew about moving money, I always thought, like when I heard the name Forex company, I thought that was all to do with like stocks and shares and like big massive companies, and just like, I didn't realize that like everyday people could use the money. So, and I'm sure that I'm not the only one that thinks that, because you tend to think, oh yeah, I'm going to move my money over here. I'm going to sell my house. I've got 300,000 or 500,000, whatever you've got. And I'll just put that with the bank. That's the first thing you think. I'm just going to put that with the bank. Why would people use you instead of the bank? Can you just like simplify it for me, what you do?
Definitely. And, it's really interesting when we talk about banks.
If you dream of moving to New Zealand, then you are going to love what I'm about to share with you. 12 years ago, when me and Bri emigrated to New Zealand, we were scouring the internet, trying to find any information that we could about what our life would be like when we got here. And basically all we had was YouTube. So we made this vow. We said, when we get to New Zealand, we're going to create something that we can share with others that answers those questions that you're so desperate to know about. Like, what is your life going to be like when you get here? And that's what I'm here to offer you today. We have created a 5-day free, absolutely free video guide that shows you what it's really like to live in New Zealand. This stuff is unique and it is fabulous. You are not going to find it anywhere else on the internet. And like I say, it's absolutely free. You'll be sent a video every day for 5 days and you will know what it's like in New Zealand. So if you're interested, head over to nzahead.com/free and sign up today. That's nzahead.com/free. Go over there, put your details in, and I will send you 5 days of those wonderful videos. Instead of the bank, can you just like simplify it for me, what you do?
Definitely. And, it's really interesting when we talk about banks, I think, because people have almost been preconditioned to a degree that the only way that they can move money internationally is with a bank. There's also that, I suppose, thought process behind that people believe that because the banks have been around for many, many a year, that they're rock solid, they're the most trustworthy in terms of, looking after people's money. But it's really interesting when people reach out to us or we're introduced to clients, what we try and do is help them understand of what we do as well. So with what the banks do in terms of moving money internationally and what we do, they're identical. We use exactly the same banking platform to move clients' monies as do the banks. So that's the Swift banking platform. It's the most secure and it's the safest remittance platform in the world currently. And what that means is there's a digital footprint all the way through. But what's really interesting, and it's not until we start engaging with the clients, there's 2 parts of our service that really differentiate us against the banks. One is we're a lot more proactive, and the rates that we provide in most cases are a lot sharper. And again, in most cases, we're about 1 to 5% better than the rates that clients will achieve through the bank. Not all cases, but most. The biggest point of difference in terms of what we deliver is we're one of the very few foreign exchange groups in the world, including banks, that provide every client with their own dedicated account manager. And when people are moving internationally, they're normally moving large or a significant amount of money. So they've got concerns and questions. And what we find with others in the market, they're so intent on pushing people off onto online platforms, very little human interaction. And nowadays with scams and those sorts of things happening, we've never deviated from our very traditional roots that, as I said, every client is given their own account manager. So we provide a really high level of personalised service, and that's been validated in terms of, I suppose, our credentials. So as an example, we're the only FX provider to have been awarded CanStar's 5-star Gold Star Award for outstanding value 5 years running. Another independent is MoneyFacts Consumer Awards out of London. We've been voted the #1 international money transfer provider for the last 7 years. So we know what we do and what we deliver to clients is a really strong personal service. And that's the big difference between us and the banks. Yeah. They don't have that level of service.
I totally agree with that, manager, because if you're using, like you say, other platforms and you send an email off to them and you'll get a reply from Sherry, and then the next day you'll get a reply from Susan. And you're like, who am I talking to here? So it's just someone looking at a screen, and that personal side of things kind of evaporates, doesn't it?
That is the big key for me, is that personal service. And I don't know if you agree, but I just think everyone just, it's so automated nowadays, isn't it? And it's scary because money, that's your big thing.
It's your life savings half the time that you bring, if you're emigrating, that's what it is, isn't it?
Exactly. And look, the whole focus of our service and what we deliver to clients is about giving them sharper rates, which means that they're achieving more money for their transfers. That's the whole focus of our business. So if we can achieve that and help clients get more money for their international transactions against banks and others, well, then we know we're doing the right thing. And the other area that Ash works closely with them is when they've got their dedicated account manager, we're really proactive in keeping our clients up to date with what's happening in the market. So I know the markets can be quite scary and a bit confusing. So the beauty of having their own dedicated account manager just means that the client doesn't have to jump in and try and be viewing the markets every day, all day. We take that stress away from them, and their account manager will make them aware of movements in the market. We always get the question, when's the best time to move your money? Yeah. It would be great to have a crystal ball, but what we tend to find, it's really dependent on the client's time frame. So if someone's saying, look, I need to move money by the end of this week, well, then we're at the mercy of where the markets are. Yeah. But if they've got more time on their hands, that's where it's really beneficial that we can sit alongside them, or their account manager can work alongside them really closely and just make them aware of where the rates are sitting and try and help them time markets a little bit better because they've got more time on their side.
Again, I'm just going to step in here and just simplify this, because out of the two of me and Brian, it was Brian that dealt with all the money transfers and all that stuff. And to me, it was like, I'm not saying I didn't know how it worked, but it was like you say, it's confusing if you don't know about bank rates and things like that. So to put it simply for people who are listening, if you've got £10,000, that might be worth 20,000 New Zealand dollars one day. The next day, the rate goes down and then it's only worth 19,000 New Zealand dollars, or it goes up and it's worth 22,000 New Zealand dollars. And that is what you're talking about, isn't it? About keeping your eye on this rate, because that is huge, especially if you're transferring like we were,
sale of your house.
Yeah, the sale of our house, because we didn't have someone to say, just wait a few days or just wait a few weeks, exactly like you're just saying, Stu. I'm not bitter about this. I mean, I'm not still talking about it 14 years later, Stuart. But you know what? We lost 100,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, that is absolutely frightening when it comes to that. And unfortunately, what happens is because people are accepting of, and this is not a dig at the banks, but because they've been preconditioned or they've always used the banks, they don't question it. So from a bank's perspective, or the way in which they operate, they don't engage with the client at the front end to say, hi Liz, look, at the moment it's probably not the best time to be moving your pounds to New Zealand because the rates at a 9-month low. Our account managers do that. So they will make them aware. And again, if it's not time restrictive and you've got time on your side, because of the data that we get, we can sort of quite comfortably give them advice. And it is just general advice, but trying to help them make a better informed decision, because you're dead right. That difference in the market, because the rates are fluctuating every minute of the day, that can be the difference of thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars to them in the shift of a market. So it's really about preservation of capital or their funds, but also trying to help them optimize the value of their funds.
Yeah, you said a 9-month low then, Stu. It's been a 14-year low for the pound against the New Zealand dollar.
Wrong place at the wrong time.
Why wasn't it just 9 months, Stu?
Yeah. Well, look, we've still got people, and part of the service here is we've got people that are still sitting on the fence waiting for that magic 2 to 1. And I remember back in the day when it was 3 to 1.
Me too.
So
that was roughly just, we went down to 2.5, 2.5 to 1. And Liz was going, it'll go back up. And I'm like, let's just send it now. Oh. And guess what? It went to 2 to 1.
It nearly broke our marriage, that decision, didn't it, Brian?
I'll never forget it. I should do.
So going back to your company, Stu and Ash, again, this is just me in my head. I imagine that, do you ever get people like that are coming on the phone and they're going like, sell, like you see in the films where they're like, yeah, we need it now. What would you do if you knew that, like, the market, say if like you just said, you have data. I'm not saying that you're a mind reader, and obviously no one knows that, but you guys know, you can see trends in the market and things like that. What would you do to a client if they said, no, I just want to sell now, and you knew that the rate was going to be, getting better for them? Would you advise them, or would you do what they say, or how does that work?
Yeah, look, that's a really interesting one. What we do is, we can't make the decision for them. But so one of the things that we do within the business here is all of our senior account managers, or the dealers that are assigned to the individual clients, they meet every morning at 9 a.m. Australian time to understand what's happened in the markets overnight. And that gives them an understanding of what the day may look like going out. In addition to that, they're also aware of key economic data and events, 2 weeks out. And that's normally a nice little window. So what we know from historically is that, for instance, when the reserve banks meet and they're talking about, it's a decision on the interest or the cash rates and so forth, or the CPI or unemployment data, we know based on what's been coming out of the, I suppose, analysts, of what that may do to certain currencies. So with a client at the front end, if we believe that, let's say they're bringing pounds out of the UK and back to New Zealand and NZ dollars, and there's an announcement, whether it be out of the US or London or Australia, that may have an impact on that currency pairing, and we think it could be a positive, when I say positive, in the client's favour, and yet, let's say, nervous, and they're wanting to just transact because they think the market's going to fall off a cliff, we would normally provide them general advice around that to say, look, don't panic. The indications are that it may be a little bit low at the moment, but we're believing that it may move forward. We can't guarantee that, but based on our experience, it's about trying to take the fear away from it. And when you can strip the emotion out, you make much better informed decisions. So the other thing that we see too, and again, there'd be very few companies that do this. If we see an increase in a pairing of currencies, again, if I use the pound, let's say the pound is falling away from the New Zealand dollar, which means you're going to get more New Zealand dollars for your exchange. The account managers that have those clients that are looking to do those transactions, they will either be on the phone to them, or we'll send them an email to say, hi, just be aware there's an increase in terms of the rate. It's moving in your favor. From when we last spoke, this is where the rate was. This is where it is now. And you can quite quickly determine that could be the difference of 5,000 New Zealand dollars, or it could be 50,000. And it's just making them aware that there's opportunity for them. And we do that on the risk side too. So if we see things moving the other way and it could impact them negatively, we will reach out and let them know.
So just say, hypothetically, it's any currency and you've got 500,000 of whatever it is, dollars, pounds, and it's sitting in my bank account, and I want to go, okay, Stu, I want to transfer the money now, but my bank will only let me transfer 50,000 or 30,000 a day. How do we go about that?
Yeah, look, that's something we come up against regularly, and this is really a great benefit of having that account manager, that dedicated, because they're very well versed in obviously what we do foreign exchange. So a lot of clients will have limitations on the amount of funds they can bring out of their account. So when we engage with them at the front end, we understand what bank they're with and make them aware they need to understand what their daily transfer limits are out of their bank. If they're on the lower end, they can request their bank uplift that or lift that limitation. We've had clients that might have, for instance, they can only move £10,000 per day, but they're wanting to move 2 million. Once they engage with their bank, they can get that limit lifted, and they're then permitted to move £2 million through to us, and we can exchange. Okay. So if they leave it right to the very end, that's where it becomes problematic, because, as you know, the banks aren't necessarily that receptive to making that happen quickly. Yeah.
And when you say you transfer it to you, so say it was pounds, you would have a pound account in the UK, and that's how you would do it, and then you transfer it to the New Zealand?
Yeah, exactly right. So, and I should point out that the accounts that the client's funds are held in are what we call segregated client accounts. So they're not attached to our operational accounts. We cannot use those funds for any other purposes, and they are held with our major banking partners. So Barclays Bank, JP Morgan. So, touch wood, dare I say it, but look, if the worst of the worst scenario was to unfold and our business evaporated tomorrow, the client's funds are still held in custody with the banking partner. They're their funds. So they're completely ring-fenced and secure.
I'm glad you said that, because I've always wondered that. I've always been like, where does the money go in between? So now I've transferred it, and until it's there, where does it go in between? But now you've just answered that. So it goes into a holding bank, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the other thing we do with our service is when they, let's say, again, if we use pounds as an example, if they move £100,000 to our account, they're not obliged to convert them there and then. So what happens is, if the rate's not particularly favourable, we would say, look, just leave the pounds in your account. As we're getting closer, you can remit them across to us. But we've also got clients that are waiting for that golden, 2-for-1 conversion rate, and they might have pounds just sitting there waiting and ready. So there's no obligation for them once they send their money to us that they have to convert there and then. They can convert whenever it suits them.
They can have their funds sitting in there 6 months to a year, 18 months, however long they wish to have it in there.
Right.
Yeah.
And you can, what you call not track a rate, as you can fix when it gets to 1.9 or something, we'll trigger it.
Yes. So what we do, and this is where Ashlee works quite closely at the front end with the account managers. For instance, we might have a client that's looking to achieve a particular rate. And what we do is, we can set up a service on the system for them, which we call a rate alert. So we can put in the rate that they're ideally looking to achieve. And normally what we would do is we would put it slightly under the rate that they're looking for. So with the rate alert, from a trajectory point of view, if that rate is starting to climb and hits where they're ideally looking to transact, their account manager will be back in contact with their account manager, and they can again view the market, because there might be further opportunity to get above the rate that they were looking. Or alternatively, if we believe the rate may fall away from that in the very near future, it then just gives them the ability to transact there and then and capture the rate that they were looking for.
Yeah.
Right.
So do you set a minimum as well? So if it was like, that's where I'd like it to go, but if it falls to this, it looks like it's going to keep going, would you have a trigger point for that as well?
Yeah, we do. We can set a minimum, but again, that's the beauty of having their dedicated account manager. There's always emails and phone calls going back and forth, so nothing's missed on that side.
I've got a few questions. So first of all, is there a minimum that you need to, like, what if I just wanted to transfer £1,000 or what's the minimum amount that I can transfer?
$200.
Really?
Right. Yeah, so if you're transferring a minimum of $200, or if you're going up to, million, 2 million, 20 million, you'll still get the exact same service either way.
Right. Okay. And so even if I was transferring $200, I'd still get an account manager.
Yep.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah.
Fantastic. That's great. What was my other question? There was something else I was going to. Oh yeah. Do you pay tax when you bring the money in? Like, what happens with when I bring my money over from the UK? I don't know if you know this answer, but do you know if you pay tax on that money?
We always suggest that they always seek professional advice in regards to that. So whether it's from their accountant or financial planner, under our license, we're not licensed to provide any tax advice.
Right. Okay. That's fair enough.
But in those situations, what we normally find that a client will have a taxation obligation from the originating country, and they'll normally obviously pay the tax at that end. But there are some circumstances where there could be some on the other side. Not often, but as Ashlee said, that's why we certainly strongly recommend, if someone asks us what tax implications movement of money happen or eventuate, it's a case of, look, talk to your accountant.
Yeah.
And we get that quite often with clients that, through inheritances where there's a settlement of an estate. That's a very common question from the beneficiaries of the estate to say, well, what tax am I going to need to pay? And generally at that stage, there's a solicitor involved from their side, and we would normally redirect them back to the solicitor to say that should be handled in country, but you're best off checking with your professional advisor.
Yeah.
And when the money gets to, say I'm bringing the money over from the UK and I've got a Barclays bank account in England and there isn't a Barclays in New Zealand, what do I do with my money once I've transferred it? Where would you?
If I'm still living in the UK is what this is saying, yeah.
We do that quite often in the fact that we've got clients that haven't landed as yet and they don't have a localized bank account. So they can put their funds with us and not convert them. So that, let's say, again, using the pound, they might have £500,000 sitting with us. They arrive into New Zealand, set up their bank accounts, then they do the conversion, and then it will be directed to their nominated New Zealand bank account. Or alternatively, it might be a case of that they've sent the funds through to us. They won't have an account for 6 months. We can do the conversion from pounds to New Zealand dollars, and we just have the New Zealand dollars sitting in what we call one of our multi-currency wallets on behalf of them, and then they can shift that to the nominated bank account once they've got that set up. So it's really flexible in terms of that process.
Okay.
I love talking about money. It's great, isn't it? This is a really nosy question. You don't have to answer if you don't want to, but I really appreciate it if you do. What's the biggest amount of money you've ever transferred?
$12.50.
Yeah. I won't pinpoint the exact amount, but as Ashlee said, we can do amounts from as low as 200, but we have facilitated some corporate transactions that have been 300 million plus. So,
I bet you were sweating that night.
Well, you do, and well, it is, and the thing is whether you're moving, 10,000 or 100 million, just that slight deviation of points on the exchange rate can make a difference. What's really interesting, I suppose, Ash more so. Had a presentation not so long ago with clients, and they said, can you just give us some examples of the sorts of savings you've achieved for clients? And it was particularly in this patch of people that are moving internationally. So there's probably 2 or 3 more recent ones that we've got.
Yeah, so there's quite a few examples, but one more recently that I really loved. It was a New Zealand client. They were coming back to Australia. They'd sold their house and moved $1.5 million. We were able to achieve them an additional $35,000 against the banks. And when they got here, they were able to buy the brand new car that they always wanted, but wouldn't have been able to do otherwise.
It's
which is
so
really lovely.
true. It's
Exactly.
literally that couple of points. I mean, I know when we were bringing ours, and it was like it just went down like 1 point, and you were talking like 27,000, and it was all $17,000 or something. And it's like you say, it's a new car, isn't it? You can furnish your house with that.
And it's really interesting, and this is where I suppose, drawing back the curtains and being transparent on it. When you do it through a bank or some of the other institutions, effectively they say, look, you're starting with 2 million US, this is what you're going to achieve in NZD. But until they sort of get that comparison, it's not until they do that they sort of get an understanding of, well, I'm not realizing the full potential of what I could do. And so another one more recently that Ashlee was intimately involved with, she was working with these clients all the way through in conjunction with the account manager, US.
Yeah, moving back from the US back to New Zealand. Over a couple of transactions, they moved back $2 million after a few house sales. And over those couple of transactions, we saved them $126,000.
Wow. That's incredible.
That's incredible, isn't it?
Does it cost anything? I forgot to ask you this. So do you charge anything for this? No.
No fees involved, no.
No, and look, normally the question is, look, nothing's for free. So we're very genuine in the fact that the service we provide is fee-free. So we don't have any fees attached to our service. And the $1 million question we get asked is, well, that's fantastic, but how do we make our money? Yeah. And that's really simple. Because of the size of our group and the volume of transactions that we're putting through daily, weekly and monthly, we get really good buying power off the market. So when we're buying currency, we're buying it in large tranches. So we get it effectively at a wholesale rate. And then it's the margin between the wholesale rate to where we pass it on at the consumer rate or the retail rate, for a better word. That margin between the wholesale and retail, that's where we generate our profit. It's fairly narrow. It is profitable. We do make profit. We've got to keep the lights on.
Eat at night.
But the beauty is it's still, in most cases, sharper than what they're going to get through the bank. So it's a win-win all the way around on that side.
So why is that? Are the banks just being a bit more greedy?
For a better word, a little bit fat and lazy. And look, with the banks, they've got many verticals into their business that generates income for them. We don't. Our whole business is centered around foreign exchange. So we know that for us, and it's probably testament to in terms of where we sit on the international stage, our whole focus of what we do is better exchange rates for clients, but also building long-term mutually beneficial relationships with them, or value-based, because what we historically find is when a client sets up an account with us, they will essentially not use us just for that one transaction, but they will come back to us over a number of years and might use us more regularly, I suppose, for a whole host of different reasons.
Do you know what I'm taking out of this? Because when you move into anywhere in the world, but we're talking because we moved to New Zealand, you've got to be a certain kind of person, I think, to move to New Zealand. To emigrate across the other side of the world, you have to be a bit of an adventurer and a little bit of a risk taker, don't you?
Yes,
really,
you do.
Brian?
Yeah.
And it's easy to think, oh yeah, well, I'll just put my £250,000 and I'm just going to give it to Barclays and they can tell me how much I'm going to get. And I get it. You're going to move to New Zealand and you know that you've got 480,000 or whatever it's going to be. You've got that set amount. And I also understand that there is a limit of not risk, but what's the word? Stepping out of the box, using a company like a Forex company. It is, isn't it? It's stepping out of the box. But what I love about this conversation is you've kind of normalized it all and you've made it feel safe, and just the risk is taken. I think that's the big thing. When people are transferring money, it's always that thing in your mind, this is a risk. And that's what I get from your company. And to be honest, as we've moved through the years, 14 years now, Forex companies have they've lost that, we're using a Forex company, and it's more, we want as much money as we can. We've worked hard for this money. We've spent ages selling our house. We want the absolute best rate. And I think it's fantastic that you bring in this personalized, I just love the idea of this manager, this community, the personal manager. And I just wanted to say that, because coming from a person that did think Forex companies were like, oh, scary.
Just for the corporate companies.
Yeah,
that's
just
what
for
you
the
tend to
corporate.
think.
I love that it's just you like letting the little guys like us, like, get the best rate for our money, and that's the way it should be. Why should we just take what the bank tells us we're going to have?
No, I agree, because we have some people coming over from the US and they're like, no, I'm using my bank.
Yeah,
and it's just like, why? You're throwing money away. You're literally getting, even if it's $10,000 or $50,000, and throwing it away.
But you know why? That's what I'm saying, because of the risk. But what these guys are doing is taking that risk and just making it look, it's like you just put your arm around us and go, it's fine. This is how it works. And that's all anyone wants to know is like, what's going to happen to my money? What, isn't it?
Yeah, it's true. And that's it. Yeah. It's, I remember the first time I used a Forex company 15 years ago, and it was part of Currencies Direct. It was just like, who are these people?
Yeah.
I don't know who they are. And I'm going to be putting my life savings in with them. And, it worked brilliantly.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad I did it originally, and that's why, again, we want to use you guys, because you're literally over the water. You're only 2-hour time difference from us, which is great.
Yeah, and look, the beauty with that, and you've sort of hit it right on the nail right on the head with with what you've just said. What we find is, we're not asking people to just believe us, in terms of what we say. We can back it up, but we encourage people to do their own due diligence as well. So we can tell them about our service and what we can do from a rate perspective, and we can provide them a comparative rate, and that's the best way of understanding where the value is. There's sites like Trustpilot. It's an independent review site. We've got no influence over the posts or the recommendations that people put on there, but we're the highest consistently rating FX group on them. We're 4.9 out of 5. That's a testament to the service delivery. We hold the highest credit worthiness with Dun & Bradstreet. We operate under an AFSL license. We're highly regulated. And in the 20 years that TorFX has been in operation, we've never been penalised by a regulator. We've never breached any of our I suppose, obligations under our license. I'd love to say that's the same for the banks, and I know for a fact it's not. So sometimes when people say, are you as safe as the banks? Yes, we use exactly the same platform to transfer money internationally as the banks. But the biggest difference between us and what we do and they do, we've never been penalised. We've never received a financial penalty for the way in which we operate. So what we do, I know we do really, really well. And it's just what we do.
Yes, I think so too. And I've got another question, and then I'll let you go, I promise. So are you around the world? So how, if I want to contact you and have you got offices around the world, or is it just in Australia? How do we communicate?
So we've got offices all around the world, and what we tend to do from the office here in Australia, we service all of APAC, and the Americas. But again, we've got clients that are located in the UK, Scotland, Switzerland. We can service them all from here. Yes, there might be some time differences, but most of the time we can work our way around that. Clients also have the ability where they can deal directly with our UK office. It would just mean that they would set up an account with our UK operation and have an account manager that's located in the UK.
Fantastic.
I absolutely love that. And you know what? Before I let you go, I am going to say this. I need to tell our audience this. This has been a real tricky an interview because our Zoom keeps dropping out, and we've had you guys have got the patience of a saint.
You're a pro, Stu.
You were real pros, because I tell you what, we've had to keep rewinding this video and saying, "I'm sorry, we're just going to do this little bit again," and it's a testament to you both, because you're not flapping around like I would be if someone kept saying that to me. So you're real pros, real lovely people. Thank you.
Obviously know what
so
know what you're talking about. What I'm going to do is I'm going to leave the link that if people want to get and reach out to you, they just go to www.nzahead.com/TorFX.
Yeah, look, we would encourage that. And the other thing I should have sort of said, but having at the front end when we talk about no fees, there's also no obligation. So clients can set up an account with us. It's free. There's no obligation. So if their circumstances change or they decide to go through their bank, that's fine. So we're very genuine in the fact that if we can help them save money, that's a great outcome for all of us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, Stu, we're going over to Europe next year, aren't we? We're going over there for, we are. We're going to be using you again.
Yeah.
We'll be on to you. I'll be there with me $250. Don't you worry about that, Ashlee.
Well, I was going to say, and I'm not probably jumping the gun, but in the not too distant future, and we're going to have a rollout of further products and services. And one of those products is a multi-currency card. So it's a little way off for the New Zealand side, but when that comes out, clients that have accounts, if they're traveling internationally, they can preload those cards and they'll be able to use it multiple currencies if they're running through Europe, the US.
That sounds great. Because that's going to be good for people who are actually moving over here. And like you say, they haven't got the bank account set up because they haven't got an address and everything. You can use that card then for when you first get into Australia or New Zealand. Just preload it with some US dollars or UK pounds.
Exciting.
And you do that, and you're going to have an app, I suppose, where you can just transfer it from your UK in the app to on the day.
Yeah, exactly. At the moment, we've got clients have the ability where they've got their direct account manager and they can liaise with them by phone or email. And separate to that, we've got a number of clients that want to self-serve. So we've got the digital platforms where a private client can transact as well as our corporates. And then more recently, in the last 6 months or 8-9 months, I should say, we've got the mobile app, which is only for private clients currently. So private clients can use their mobile app and facilitate their transfers whilst on the run.
That's brilliant.
Yep. Okay.
So what's the best way for people? We're going to put the link, like Bryce said, in the description, and we'll put it on the screen. Do they contact you by email? Do they go to you by phone? What happens?
Yeah, look, what we might do is, in addition to the link on your website, we can, or Ashlee will provide you with her direct contact details. So if anyone in the initial stage, they can have Ashlee's direct phone number, her direct email address as well. And we'll be more than happy to assist them. And as I said, no obligation, happy just to have an informal chat.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
that
great.
sounds
We're
good.
here to help.
I think I've got your QR code, which sends you through our link, and I'll put that in the bottom of the screen so people can just camera it and on YouTube and get hold of you that way as well. Yeah,
it's really scientific.
But these guys have got all the stuff. That's what it is.
It
is.
Technology.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today on the podcast. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you. Like I said, I could talk about money all day, but yeah, you guys are fabulous, and thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah. No, it's been awesome. We really enjoyed it, and it's just great, dealing with both yourselves, Brian and Liz. So, really appreciate the opportunity.
Been a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, you too.
Okay,
Good
bye.
study.
Okay, thanks. Bye.
Thank you so much for joining us on the podcast this week. We have loved having you here with us.
If you loved this week's show, please share this with your friends. Send it to anybody you know that wants to think about moving to New Zealand, and get on over here yourself.
And tell them how brilliant it is as well. And also, if you haven't signed up for our free 5-day video guide showing you what life is like, really like, in New Zealand, then go over to the website and sign up. You are missing out. This is brilliant. Go over to www.nzahead/free and we will send you 5 days worth of videos about what life is like in New Zealand. You are going to love it. So one more time, that website that you need to sign up for the free 5-day guide is www.nzahead/free. So we're going to see you next week. Until then, have a great week and we'll speak to you soon. Bye.
Bye.
Say bye again. Bye.
Bye.